Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. Azim scores a 12th round TKO victory over Scoby, even though it's spelled Scoby, on the undercard of Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn 2. Let's talk about it. Going into the fight, Scoby was 18-1, brash talking American, but there was nothing on his record to prove that he had any real quality. He was stopped by a guy called Dakota Lingar in 6 rounds last year, and the only name in the win column on his resume was a 2023 second round TKO victory over a totally washed up and ancient Hank Lundy. Azim, despite being less experienced than Scoby as a pro, less pro fights, actually has a better resume. He's at least beat people like Sergey Lipinets, O'Hara Davis, and although both guys were past their best, they were not as past their best as Hank Lundy, for example. The unbeaten Azim, 23 years of age, 13-0 going into the fight, 10 of his wins by knockout or stoppage, established his jab early, kept his range through combinations whenever he got the opportunity, which was quite frequently, and very impressively was punctuating his combos with a left hook to the body, which he throws with very good form. He whips it in. I'm not for 1 second suggesting that Azim is ever going to be on the level of a Tommy Hearns, but the way he throws that particular punch, the motion of it, is somewhat reminiscent of the hitman Tommy Hearns. And just like Tommy Hearns, he's consistent with it. Of course, he doesn't have anything like Tommy Hearns level power, but that's besides the point. It's very nice the way he finishes combinations with that shot and constantly picks it out, particularly against a much shorter opponent. Now, obviously, as he steps up the levels, he's going to need to be careful when he decides to unleash that punch and from what distance, so on and so forth. And the commentators did pick up on that. But it's nice to see that he's got that shot in the locker. He got Scoby under control very early. Scoby did not have the skill nor the power and strength to overcome Azim's advantages, both in terms of dimensions and also athleticism. And after a few rounds, bear in mind this was a 12-rounder, Azim asked his coach, Shane McGuigan in the corner, if he could step it up and actually take the fight to Kurt Scoby, because again, he was boxing not necessarily on the back foot, but maintaining his range through the early portion of the fight. But then with the blessing of his coach, he decided to actually take it to Scoby on the inside, and he dominated him there too. Scoby, going into the fight, seemed to be one of these typical Americans who seems to think that just because somebody's British, they automatically have got a glass jaw and no heart, and all you got to do is drag them into a dogfight and you'll beat them 10 times out of 10. This perception still endures in the American boxing scene, such as the insular nature of America as a society. Obviously, boxing has moved on, and American fighters are not as dominant as they once were. Well, they're not really dominant at all now. Other boxing nations have improved, and it seems as though a lot of American fighters, to some extent American boxing fans and even pundits, haven't caught up to this fact. They're still living in the 1980s or the 1990s or something when it comes to the boxing landscape and their perception of boxing. So like I say, Azim took it to Scoby on the inside, kept punishing the body, hitting with uppercuts. He did get caught with the occasional shot. Scoby does have 16 KOs on his resume, but nothing seemed to bother Azim at all. Now, some people might be concerned that Azim, a tall fighter for 140, was willing to take it to Scoby on the inside like that and put himself in harm's way. But again, going back to what I mentioned earlier on in the video, he asked permission from his coach Shane McGuigan to do so. Presumably, if he's fighting a more capable fighter, a more dangerous fighter, Shane McGuigan won't be granting him that permission, necessarily, depending on how the fight's going. I was personally very impressed by Azim's punch variety, his stamina, his speed, his jab, that left hook to the body in particular, his fluidity. I still have some reservations about him. There are still certain questions that need to be answered, certain boxes that need to be ticked, but that's not going to happen until he steps up to the next level. That next level could be a fight with Dalton Smith. And by the way, if that fight happens anytime soon, I'm actually tempted to pick Azim. He just seems like a much more rangy fighter. And if he can keep Dalton Smith on the end of a jab, maybe he can take it. As long as he can absorb the occasional big shot from Dalton Smith, because he probably will get hit with some big shots here and there. If he can take that, then I can see him having his way on the outside with that jab, with the speed, the height and reach and all that. But getting back to his fight with Kurt Scoby, Azim started to get to him really with the body shots. In the final third of the fight, you could see that Scoby was starting to wilt, and he eventually took a knee in the very last round, round 12. He did get to his feet, but Howard Foster looked in his eyes, and he did not like the way that Scoby responded to his instructions, and therefore decided to wave it off. And by the way, as much as Howard Foster gets loads of stick for premature stoppages and what have you. I had no issue with the stoppage in this fight. For me, Scoby was done, and he was trying to indicate to Howard Foster that he was done, while maintaining some degree of plausible deniability. When Foster waved it off, Scoby was like, oh my God, are you really stopping it like that? But it was a half-hearted protest as far as I'm concerned. The fact that he looked so beaten from a body language perspective, to me, looked like a guy that wanted to be rescued by the ref when there was only, a minute or so to go in the final round, shows just how distressed he was and just how concerned he was for his own health. So yeah, like I say, I've got no issue with that stoppage. Azim picked up the WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title, which was vacant for this fight. A meaningless trinket, but I guess it gets you a better ranking or whatever with the WBO. At the time of making this video, Azim is ranked number 10 by the IBF and 9 by the WBC, but is not ranked at all by the WBA or WBO. But as I say, because he picked up this little trinket against Scoby, presumably when the WBO rankings are updated, he will get a ranking with that organization. So yeah, overall, I like what I saw from Azim. His head is held very high, and I'm not talking about from a figurative perspective. I mean, literally, when he's in the ring fighting, his chin is often in the air, and that's something I'd like to see addressed. But other than that, I thought he looked very good. He's obviously not a brutal knockout artist, but I think his power is respectable, and he's very athletically gifted, so yeah, onwards and upwards for him. But let me know what you guys thought about Azim's performance. Did you like it? Obviously, the opposition is no great shakes, but still, he was able to show his repertoire. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.